Hello, my name is Moria Levy, and I want to speak to you today about knowledge management and ISO30401. So, a few words about myself. I deal with knowledge management already 24 years nearly. I have a company, that's what she does day and night already, as I said, for over 20 years, 40 employees. I also chair the Israeli KM Forum, and I chair the ISO Standard Committee of 3041, the committee which wrote and is continuing to write all kinds of advancements to the ISO standard. And I also am the chair of KMGN, the KM Global Network for Knowledge Sharing and Cooperation between countries. So let's start. I'm sure you all know what humans are and what human resource management is all about. When we speak about human resource management, we don't speak about only dealing with human resource issues, but we speak about the management of it. And in different aspects, we speak about the welfare, and we speak about the development of the employees, and we speak about recruitment, and we speak about knowledge retention when they leave. And there are so many aspects and when we speak about human resource management, what we mean is that we take the human and put it in the center, in our focus, and look at all what has to be done or said in the organization with regard to the human resource. So when we go to knowledge management, we do the same thing. So we first of all have to understand what knowledge management is. So what knowledge is, we all know. It's our information, our insights, our understandings of what's happening in the world and in our organizations. And what is knowledge management? Knowledge management is the discipline. When I see discipline, I mean approaches, methodologies, and practices that focus on the knowledge, not on the human resource, but on the knowledge resource. And we look how it can reduce the organizational risks and how it can improve the organizational performance. So we take the knowledge, and through the prism of the knowledge, we look for all kinds of solutions, how to reduce the risks, and how to improve the performance. And when I say knowledge management, I mean many different types of activity, as we had with human resource management. Also here we have different types of activities. All of them deal with knowledge retention and or knowledge sharing and knowledge accessibility, how people can find the information, find the content faster, or knowledge development, how tomorrow the organization knows more than it knew yesterday. When we speak about knowledge management, we are speaking about activities that can be handled within the organization, between the employees, between the departments, within the departments, or with customers, or with other stakeholders out there in the world. Okay. So one more sentence to give you the sense of knowledge management, because you say, okay, knowledge retention. Someone leaves, I have to retain his knowledge. I have an expert, I want to retain his knowledge. And you start thinking about the understandings, what stands behind this definition, behind this explanation of what knowledge management is. So I'll show to you in a nutshell. We speak about different typical solutions. We speak about building bodies of knowledge bases. We speak about sharing knowledge through digital channels. We speak about mail management, document management, best practices knowledge base, blogs, change management, document management, internets, content management, lessons learned, wikis, accessibility, and all kinds of other typical activities that take the knowledge, put it in the focus, and understand how we can reduce the risks and or know more tomorrow. Share more tomorrow. Reuse what we already know today. So that's knowledge management. And I'm sure that each one and one of you, even if you weren't aware with a specific term, can say, oh, we have here a knowledge base or database that includes all the sales documents or all the sales offerings. And we have here a best practices knowledge base where we have all kinds of tips and tricks or good practices how to reduce the time of HR problems. Or we have different types of solutions, let's say for service centers, where we can, when someone calls us and asks, hey, can you tell me that and that and that, and some representative of our organization has to give them an answer within a minute or even less. So we've built a knowledge base with all the information. It has to be very accessible. So these are different types of knowledge management solutions in organizations. So let's go and now speak about ISO 30401. ISO 30401, as you understand from its name, is an ISO standard. 30401 is the standard that deals with knowledge management, how we manage knowledge in an excellent way in our organizations, and it is a requirement standard. Now I said here two things. I said that are important to notice. One, that's how to deal with knowledge management in an excellent manner. And two, that it's a requirement standard. What was I trying to share with you with these two bullets? The first is that we have two types of standards. We have standards that deal with safety. You won't go into an elevator unless it has the standard and you see the signature that it was checked the past few months. You won't use a telephone, a smartphone, if it doesn't have an ISO standard, knowing that you can speak safely. You won't eat food that doesn't have the standard, etc., etc. However, that's not the kind of standards we're speaking about. These are safety standards. We are speaking about management standards, what we tend to call also, we call them excellence standards. Because you can work in an organization without innovation standard, but if you have an innovation certification of a specific standard, it says that you have a high level of innovation in your standard. It shows you and it shows the whole world that you have a high level of that specific area in which you have the certification. If you have a quality management standard, it says that you have high quality, not that you have some quality. If you have society commitment and society involvement certification, it means you have a high level of involvement in the society, doing good for the community. The same thing is with the ISO 30401 standard. Organizations that have this certification, it means that they have a high level, it's a level of excellence in knowledge management. By the way, organizations can use the standard also for getting the certification and also for understanding the compass, the way how to build knowledge management activities with excellence. So that was the first bullet, saying that it is a management standard, an excellence standard. But what I'm saying here is also that it's a requirement standard. And here, I want to speak explicitly to those people, let's say from HR. Because in HR, you have many ISO standards, but most of them, the majority of these standards are guides only and are not requirement standards. That means that you don't get any certification. You just know This is a guide how we could act. But no one gives you a certification that if you did A, B, and C as it is written, you are an excellent standard. So first of all, it's a standard, not safety. However, excellence, management, and B, it's a requirement standard. That means that you can get a certification noticing that you're doing knowledge management in a high level, in a level of excellence. Now, every standard that is a management standard, we call these standards MSS-based standards, management system standards. They include two types of content, two types of chapters. They include, like a skeleton, like a template, the same requirements no matter what standard you are looking at. If it is risk management, innovation management, quality management, or knowledge management, we call these chapters the management chapters. And they include another type of chapters that are specific for the discipline we are speaking about in the specific standard. Now, I'm saying it in very sharp words, but it's not that sharp, because also in the management chapters, which in our standard are chapters 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes you will find some small additions that deal with knowledge management. But in general, it is the same chapters saying that you need commitment of the management, and you need support, and you need continual improvement, and you have to have a plan, and it has to be related to the organization, and you have to have objectives. All these requirements are requirements that we will find them again and again in all our standards that are management standards. And therefore, if you go into the ISO standard, doesn't matter what standard it is, you will find similar requirements every time you're looking in the lens, in the perspective, in the aspect of the specific discipline you are dealing with. Only with small specific additions, but in general, it is very similar from discipline to discipline to discipline, from standard to standard to standard. And that is very good, because it says that A, it will be easier to understand such a new standard, because it is similar to the other standards you're already familiar with. And B, it means that it will be easier to implement it, because you already have the mechanisms, you have the systems, you have routines that enable you measure, commit with, have a stakeholder in the organization that is in charge of, commit with the, get the commitment of the management, and go so far. So these are the management-based chapters. Beside these chapters that you are probably familiar with, we have discipline-based chapters. What chapters are these? First of all, the introduction. The introduction doesn't include no requirements. However, it explains you, if you are new to the discipline, if you are new to knowledge management, what knowledge management is, why is it important, how does it look in different sectors. So it's important, if you don't know, to understand. And there's also a very important, or the most important part, in my opinion at least, there are the rules how to do good knowledge management. You don't have to follow them if you don't want. It's not part of the requirements, but it's a very important body of knowledge, because we sat there 20 or so experts around the world, and we debated and we sat together, and everyone gave his or her inputs. What are the best rules in order to have guiding principles for good knowledge management? So please, that is the chapter, the introduction. It is discipline-based. No requirements, but very important. Another chapter that has no requirements, but is very important, is the definitions. We understand from these definitions what knowledge management is, and we can be more accurate in understanding what the requirements mean when we will read them in the next chapters. The main chapter, and I will repeat, the main chapter that speaks about the KM requirements is chapter 4, and specifically 4.4 and 4.5. 4.5 speaks about the KM culture. 4.4 on all kinds of requirements, looking at knowledge management from different perspectives, checking your knowledge activities to see that they are aligned with the organization needs and risks, and that they cover the main aspects in different perspectives. So we are checking the same activities and how they cover knowledge management from the development side of view, from the SECI side of view, from the disciplines, sub-discipline side of view. So we're looking at the same activities, but they will be checked if you get a certification from different aspects to see if you're doing the job okay. And I'll give you a hint. The culture will also be part of 4.4, but we believe that culture in the knowledge management arena is so important that gets several times it is noticed. Also in 4.4, together with all other aspects. In 4.5, a different paragraph, and it will also get one of the annexes with some more explanations. The annexes A, B, and C are not part of the requirements. They are annexes. They will help those organizations that are not familiar with KM or are familiar but need some assistance to understand what the spectrum of knowledge is. How every time I change the knowledge, when it moves from when you have a transition from one state to another, from tacit knowledge to implicit knowledge, from implicit knowledge to explicit knowledge, from undocumented knowledge to documented knowledge, every time how every transition is some type of knowledge management. That's Annex A. Annex B will explain again for those who are less familiar or who are familiar but need that help, what are the relationships between knowledge management and many adjacent disciplines like information management and HR and document management and training and organizational development and more and more. And Annex C will give us some help regarding to how you build and refine and improve your knowledge management culture. So these are the chapters of the standard. The heart of it is 4.4, 4.5. Also on the management chapters, you should look at it in the context of knowledge management, but it is very familiar with what you already know from other standards. I want to tell you that KMGN, which I spoke about in the beginning, I said I'm the chair of, the network of all organizations, of all KM networks in the world, they are all invited to be part of this KMGN that shares knowledge and has also knowledge sharing and also knowledge cooperation between knowledge management networks, is here to help. Not in general, for ISO30401. Because if you're already in an organization that has some KM program, whether excellent or just okay, KMGN can give you tools how to easier learn and prepare your certification. If you have an excellent program, we can give you tools and templates, so within a month or two, you can be ready for your certification. If you're only an organization that has KM activities but not in an excellent level, it can give you tools how to evaluate yourself and how to decide how you can make things better in order to achieve the standard within the coming years. Now, if you didn't start the KM organization journey yet, now's the time to start. Understand we're speaking about a journey. It's a very important one. More important every year. Knowledge management in 2022 is much important than it was in 2006. And I recommend that if you have nothing yet, you start soon. KM first, and just later on, then add the ISO. So if you don't have yet a knowledge management program at all, start with a program and come back later on to your KM journey and to your ISO 30401 journey. So thank you very much.